All right, what's up, Chip? How's it going
Not
today?
much. Yeah, it's going well. Going home, working from home.
I know,
That's the
right?
topic right now. Yeah.
So yeah, working from home. It's one of those things that everybody kind of had to do for the most part for a while, unless you were an essential worker. Which Godspeed to those guys because that was a difficult time. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it did force us all into thinking about the methodology a little bit more. What does it really mean to work from home? What are the double-edged swords that exist? So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit and I don't know, see if we have a similar experience.
Yeah. Because I think we may have started. Did you start the bookkeeping and the training and all that before COVID or after
I
COVID?
did, I
Yeah,
did.
before. Yeah, me too. And so as I was going through the training, the business didn't really kick off until around COVID. But I did all the training and stuff beforehand, and that was I remember a big part of prepping for being like a virtual or an outsourced bookkeeper was just convincing people like, hey, it's the 21st century. You can have your bookkeeper not be in your office or in your town.
Right.
That was going to be the big hurdle. And all of a sudden COVID hits. It's like, oh yeah, that's not really a big hurdle for people anymore. Like that, I think COVID helped speed that part up for a lot of people. Of yeah, I don't have to
Agree.
be in the same room. I can do things electronically and digitally. And so that part I think has helped. And yeah, I know that I had an office for a while because I had another business that I was running that required an office when I started this one and was trying to sell that one and a whole big mess. But actually kept the office for a while and I was like, this is just pointless. Like I'm working, it's just me and I'm in this like 8 room office building. And so moved everything to the house and actually been a lot more productive. I think in ways. There's other ways that it's easier to slack off. But
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. Whenever I first started my business, I was working for a debt settlement company, just something else, working numbers. But whenever COVID hit, we, like everybody else, moved to working from home, and it was one of those things where everyone was trying to figure out how are we going to monitor our workforce from home. And for me, it was really difficult. And I found that this was one of the motivators for like really getting my business off the ground a lot quicker because I would be working from home and I would have managers constantly micromanaging me to be like, "Hey, did you take that? I can't tell if you took that 15-minute break because it looks like it's still indicating that you're on the break right now." All these are like technology problems that people are going through because this whole work from home experiment is being forced upon everybody for the first time.
yeah,
So it was always having to try to like plead my case to people that I was using my time efficiently, even though I knew that I'm a very efficient person, and
right.
it was very mentally frustrating to have to circle back around all the time and try to get the point across to people that I was doing what I was supposed to do. And then later on, I would say a month or two after we started working from home, they started getting software where they could more easily have people like check in and out of systems, so
Okay.
they would have a better idea of what people were doing. But anyways, that kind of sparks my thought around how do we stay efficient when we're working from home? Like, what types of productivity tips do you use to kind of keep you on track?
Yeah, it's one of the things that works best when I use it. I'm not the best at always following through on the great ideas and the great plans that I have, but let's talk about the Pomodoro technique. Are you familiar with that? Or may have heard of it. So it's based on like a kitchen timer. And so I think when it kind of came out, a lot of kitchen timers, like I guess probably like in the 70s and 80s, looked like a red tomato that you'd like keep your mom might keep it on the kitchen sink or something. But you would set it
Mhm.
for like 25 minutes. The science behind it, that's how it's named. But you do like a 20-minute or 25-minute block of one thing. So don't multitask. I focus on doing this one thing for this one client, 25 minutes. I take a 5-minute break, do something completely different. May not have anything to do with my job. It could be
Yeah,
anything. Go get coffee, go do whatever.
that's what
Come
I'm talking
back, do it. Yeah, do that again. I think it's like maybe 3 or 4 of those in a row. And then you have like a 30-minute break. And you do
about.
another, 3 or 4 of those. And you take like an hour and a half break. And then do it kind of repeats. And there's some science behind it, but it's one of those that when we multitask, we're not necessarily the most efficient
Mhm.
in general. Like everybody's different, but that when I use it, so even it may pop up during this call here on my computer, but like I've got my schedule worked out for like 25-minute blocks with 5-minute breaks, and so that really helps me when I'm sitting down planning. Like, okay, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing this week, this month? And I can say, okay, I'm going to work on this client at this time, and even like personal things like, okay, I need a doctor's appointment. That's going to be these blocks, and everything's kind of in a block. And so when I use that, I am very productive. But I kind of need to set one of those blocks to be the time to fill out the other blocks.
Yeah.
That's the part that I sometimes don't get around to, but
Yeah, I definitely fall into that camp sometimes too. For me, my general rule of thumb is I try to do it before I go to sleep so
sure,
that I kind of get all of the thoughts about what I'll be doing the next day out of my head. So I'm not sitting there and trying to figure that out whenever I'm trying to go to sleep and keep myself from sleeping well.
right,
But yeah, that reminds me of something that we learned from some of the same training that we went through,
mm-hmm.
which was to really get on top of setting up your calendar the right way. So for me, and I don't know if you still do this or if you follow this tip, but it was to basically start the month by going into your calendar and marking off everything personal that
Yeah,
you can think of that will exist in that month so that you're already protecting that personal time. And then everything else can kind of get scheduled around that. But,
yeah,
we want to be working our businesses in a way that we have that, true work-life balance because no one is going to hold us accountable for taking care of ourselves whenever we are the owners working from home. There aren't any management teams being like, Wes, you just worked 90 hours, 100 hours this week. You're going to need to take some time off because we're going to be worried about the level of your work. No one's holding us to the fire on that kind of stuff. So
sure,
it's very important to schedule that time ahead of time in your calendar and
mm-hmm.
make sure you actually do it whenever that alarm goes off on the calendar. I think
Yeah,
that is something that I'm definitely guilty of not doing it all the time,
mm-hmm.
but I do try to do it. And I can tell whenever I do actually do it, it helps. It definitely, excuse me, provides some of that more mental clarity to keep moving forward. And that's sort of what you're doing on like more of a micro level whenever you're time blocking throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is something where the numbers work out differently for different people. Some people might have a good attention span where they can go 3 hours straight on something, take a 20-minute break, and they're fully ready to go another 3 hours again. And that's a good mental health break for them.
Sure,
That doesn't work for me.
yeah,
I will sometimes get into something that is, so in the weeds of numbers that I can focus on that sure for hours at a time. But
yeah,
is it mentally healthy to do so? And am I actually being as efficient as I can be whenever I do it? I would argue most of the time, no. I
right,
think that you're absolutely correct. Time blocking things in more like manageable time blocks makes more sense. So for me, I usually do something like an hour on, 10-minute off.
mm-hmm.
So I'll just, get up, go get a glass of water, maybe look at something on the news or something like that for 10 minutes. And then
Yeah,
I'll jump back in and go another hour. And then, yeah, usually around, 3 or 4 hours of doing that, depending on when I started my day, it's usually
mm-hmm.
around lunchtime, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'll take a bigger break, maybe
Yeah,
30 minutes, maybe an hour and a half.
mm-hmm.
It doesn't really matter all that much as long as I'm jumping back in and I feel well mentally rested.
Yeah,
So I think that those are the types of productivity tips that keep us probably, at our best. That and, having good like application management. So like maybe actual productivity workflow management applications in your business software. Stuff like, I don't know, ClickUp is a popular one. Asana is a popular one. I tried both. I started out in Asana, moved over to ClickUp, felt like the UI was a little bit more modern and intuitive. But that being said, you can basically accomplish the same goals in either one of them. And it's a way to help structure your day around your business and make sure that you're getting to, those important clients that need to be at the top of the list. So that's definitely something that helps keep me, productive.
Yeah, I've tried several of those ClickUp and several different things. And the thing I found is even though I was the one scheduling and saying like, okay, here's the due date, and you're going to do this by this date, the thing in me that made me want to be my own boss is like, you're going to tell me what to do, even if it's me telling me what to do. Like I found I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And like I was pushing back on some rule that I had made myself. And so, I was like, okay, this is not working for me. The thing that works best for me is having things on the calendar. And usually it's not like I have a hard time like fooling myself. Like I could put, I'm going to work on this thing on this date. It's going to be due by here. But if I really know it's not going to be due by that date, like it's tough. Like I still try to do it, but I don't have the same urgency as I'm meeting with this client on this date. They need this on this date. I've now got this other client going to meet on this date. I'll get that done 99.9% of the time. Like I'm meeting all those deadlines because they're real deadlines. So I still have issues in my own, head of setting my own self deadlines that I have just created because they're somewhat not real. Like, but if it's tied to like the client needs it, or if this is due to the IRS by this date or something, those click in my brain. So yeah, I don't know, if you want to put in the comments if you have any ideas of how I can help fix my brain on that. So.
I mean, I know me personally, I definitely have ADHD. I've been diagnosed officially, and I have tried to work on my own brain in so many different ways over so many years. And I've just kind of gotten to the point where I've found, kind of the cocktail that works for me, which is a blend of medications that aren't stimulant, but do help like calm my brain down a little bit. And then I have to just basically hold myself accountable. And that's the hardest part about it, is because when you use something that is calming your brain down a little bit, it takes you out of the usual thought flow, workflow, whatever you want to call it, energy that you have and so many other people with ADHD have, which is like, I can extremely hyper focus on something whenever I feel the fire underneath me because I procrastinated for so long. And when that goes away, it's like, you have to retrain yourself on, finding the motivation to get up and do the thing. And I finally figured that out in life, and I found ways of doing it in ways that we've kind of talked about so far, which is like putting things on your calendar, set up an alarm on that thing. So it goes off and it's flashing in front of you. You've got video conferencing calls like this one set up with your clients, and you know that they're coming up because you set up these alarms on Zoom, and you've got notifications popping up saying, hey, that thing's about to start in 5 minutes. So we use the tools that we've been given, and they definitely help. But even in spite of all of these useful tools, what would you say are some pitfalls to try to avoid whenever we're working from home? What exists in our work-life bubble that could possibly be a distraction?
My bed is so comfortable. And it's kind of like, there are some days, like it's those days when, which is part of the beauty of being your own boss. Like there are times when I'm caught up on all the work. I am, I've done everything that needs to be done right now. And there's obviously always something else to do. But there's days like, you know what? I just don't feel like getting up. I'm going to sleep in a little bit. I'm going to, go do something. I'm just going to go outside. I'm going to do something else. So that's the good part. The bad part is those are really fun days. And it's easy to, take in more of those than I should. Because I need to keep going with it. So, yeah, I think that's definitely one of the possibilities. And just life. I also see that there's laundry piled up over here. I could do that instead. Or I could,
that's a big one.
The dishes or whatever.
My laundry room is right there. And it's calling my name.
Like I'm very glad they have these virtual backgrounds now. So you can't see the mess that I'm surrounded in that really needs to get taken care of. But, it's just not at the same priority. And maybe there's days when it's like, hey, the kids need basketball uniforms for the game tonight. They didn't wash them. So, yeah, I'm doing laundry, lawn bookkeeping, and doing whatever. So they have that. But
Right. So for me, it is some of the things you already mentioned. Yeah. Laundry, household chores in general, because I'm the only one home right now. And I feel like, hey, I'm here, so I should get these things done. But you have to segment your day into where you're supposed to be responsible for the day. Oops, that was our 2-minute warning timer.
All right.
But I was just going to say, so TV is going to be a huge one for me because I'm working in front of what is essentially a TV all day long. And it only takes 2 buttons to take me into my favorite programming. So it can definitely be difficult when you're working from home because you don't have a boss shadowing from behind, watching your every move. So I would say TV is probably one of my biggest ones. I grew up in front of the thing. So it's hard to maintain that productivity, knowing that, happiness is a click away.
It depends on what I'm doing. Like if I can get these big chunks of time where nothing else is scheduled, there's no personal, like kids don't have a basketball game, there's nothing going on, and I can just like do bookkeeping and just the repetitive. Like I found I do well if I have like a podcast going in the background. Like I'm listening, I can't watch it while I'm doing it. But
that's a little bit more of like the white noise that just kind of settles your brain a little bit so that you can focus.
Yeah,
I get that. That's almost like a productivity tool if you use it the right way.
Yeah. If it's I've got to be creative, I've got to talk
about something.
I'm
gonna create a new term here. It might also be a gateway noise.
Yeah.
This could lead to disaster if I follow this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but no, I think that's overall work from home's great.
I know, I love it.
I think it's like there's times that I wish I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they were talking about they were ragging because their team lost in basketball. I was like, oh, that would be fun, to have, and I have some employees that are around, but they're not, in the office, so we don't, talk as much. So.
Right. And I do miss some of those, workplace functions. Like, every Friday at the place that I worked at, they would have a food truck of a different variety come out, and they would serve like alcoholic beverages for free. And it was great. I can't remember what we called it. It was something.
Probably the best time to call your dad. That's actually,
yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
right. I think we call it Frosty Fridays. It was a good time. But that being said, I wouldn't trade in what I have now probably for anything. I think that there are certain industries where working from the office that they give their employees is going to make more sense because of a level of engagement that can happen from just leaning over and having a conversation with somebody. Things where the industries are more dynamic and they need to have those conversations quickly. You can make the argument that we do have the software right now to still support that working from home, but I get people's hesitation to wanting to try to fully employ it. There's a lot of dynamic thought that goes into why they might not want their employees working from home. The obvious one is going to be their ability to manage them.
Sure.
And not everybody's going to have the same like work-life efficiency that we have being business owners. Obviously we have a certain drive being entrepreneurial that kind of pushes us in the direction of, being at least semi-responsible with our time. Because
Sure.
at the end of the day, if we do a bad job at work today, like we don't still get paid. We could lose clients and that could be the end of it.
Yeah.
So
I think one thing with our business is we're not, unlike some bookkeepers and accountants and stuff that do bill by time. I don't think you necessarily bill by time. I know mine is, it's monthly, it's by the job, it's, something else, so that the time aspect isn't quite as critical as, if you're billing by time. Then you really do want somebody
Sure.
fully focused and everything else, which can affect that work-life balance. So
yeah, I'm definitely value pricing in my firm. So you got me for however much time you need me. At the end of the day, I've evaluated how much time I think it will take to get through all of your workload, and they have a whole lot of fun options that exist in between there, so that neither one of us is keeping a stopwatch on things, and we're all feeling comfy and cozy and happy with it.
And some months it'll be one way, and some months it'll be the other.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked about working from home. We gave some productivity tips. We talked about our work-life balance. We talked about some of the common pitfalls. Tune into the comments if you are listening to this podcast, and let us know what your experience of working from home has been. Maybe what types of apps you guys use to increase productivity and your work-life balance, and let us know what your unique pitfalls are. I'm sure someone out there has got some fun ones. But this leads into the next part of our discussion, which is business networking. We're working from home. There is definitely that craving still in us to socialize. It is built into our humanity. We need to get out there and talk to people. So business networking helps us scratch that itch, just being human, but it is also killing two birds with one stone. We're getting out there and we're getting to talk to some people, and we are also getting to market our business. And I don't know about you, but I've learned a ton about business networking over the years, and I love it.
Yeah, it's such a great, it's a great way to spend your time as a business owner. It's a great way to grow your business. Knowing people that are experts in what they do, that are almost acting as your sales force, when they're in front of their clients and their prospects and they see a need for, oh, this person could use bookkeeping service or an electrician or a plumber or whatever, being able to say, I know a guy. Like I've built probably half my business on people saying, hey, I know a guy. And so that's been really good. And it gets a good foot in the door to meet with that prospect. You still got to close it. You got to price right. You got to show you're competent and all those things. But, if somebody can say, I know a guy, you need to talk to him. That's a great way in, to a good relationship for your business.
Yeah. I think it is commonly overlooked by a lot of entrepreneurs. That is in-person business networking. And there are a lot of different forms that, in-person business networking can take. The form that I have had the most success with have been paid for models. Mm-hmm. So you are kind of paying to play, as they say in the game industry. But it's like you do tend to get out what you put in. Now with business networking, you can definitely go to everybody's business networking event under the sun, and it's that same kind of general, mixer atmosphere of we're all gonna meet up at the bar, we're gonna have some drinks, and we're gonna talk about our businesses. But in my experience, most of those business networking structures tend to turn into that I'm standing in front of a guy and I want to tell him everything about my business, and he wants to tell me everything about his business, and we want to pass our business cards. And it's like everyone is doing that, which sounds okay on the surface, but what it really is you're looking for a diamond in the rough of someone who is already there looking for your service whenever you go about it that way. And you're not doing yourself any favors by trying to sell your service to everybody that you step in front of, because plenty of people don't need your service. Yep. But there are other forms of business networking that I have definitely grown more attached to, and that's referral business networking, which is meaning that I'm going to be in a business chapter with other industries that have protected industry chairs in that chapter, meaning that there can't be more than one person supporting that industry. There might be certain verticals of it. It's like maybe this guy is a roofer for commercial and another guy is a roofer for residential. You can have verticals like that as long as you're not stepping on people's toes. But the whole idea is that you go to this chapter every single week and you build those actual human bonds, and you get to that place where you know, like, and trust those people, and those people got your back. Like, you no longer are trying to sell your business to everybody on the street. You've got a chapter of 20 or 30 people that are out there doing it for you. As they come across people that need your services, they're thinking of you now. And I've had a lot of success with it. I won't go too big into the numbers, but I will say that over the last 3 years of me doing that type of business networking, I think I've probably gotten somewhere around 10 clients, which may not sound like a lot to some people, but in our industry, in the bookkeeping industry, 10 clients is a nice chunk of change. That's like, these are residual clients.
Monthly income. They're going to stick around. It's not a one and done in our kind of business. It could be, there could be just a one-time cleanup, but for the most part, folks are coming on and staying on for, that a good long while.
And I find the process of that type of business networking just sort of like psychologically fascinating. Because here's an example. I did what we call in my business networking a face-to-face, which is just a meeting with someone after that regular weekly meeting, just to get to know them a little bit more personally, learn a little bit more about their business. I met with them one time. For whatever reason, they had to move to a different state. And this was like 3 years ago. It was like right when I started. And I hadn't heard from them, but apparently they kept on doing this same type of business networking organization. They were just in a different state. And they finally hit me up like 6 months ago, and they're like, hey, Wes, never stop thinking about you. I'm finally at that place where I feel like I can afford to have someone come in here and do this the right way. Let's set up a consultation. That business owner ended up becoming a client from conversations that I had 3 years ago. And it's like, it's not that you can't go and do the first form of business networking that I talked about, but it's that level of really knowing, liking, and trusting someone that comes from seeing them on, several different occasions back to back. I think it makes all the difference. Yeah.
And kind of piggyback on that, I haven't done the numbers, but like I'm in BNI chapter, Business Networking International, but I think I've been in there maybe 6 years, 7 years. I changed industries when I got rid of my old business and started bookkeeping, but there's probably, as you were saying, that was like, I bet, we've got somewhere between 20 and 40 members, at any given time. And there's probably, between people coming and going, there's a core group that's still been there for some longer than me. But it wouldn't shock me if there's over 100, 150, possibly even, like, people that are now out there that, it really wouldn't surprise me if they're like, oh yeah, I know a bookkeeper. Let me, great guy. They may have moved to a different area. They've got a different job now. They were the marketer for the roofing company, and now they are doing, something else. But yeah, right. It's a good use of time, and it is a chunk of time. It is a chunk of money to do it the right way.
True. But I mean, in our industry, it only takes you getting one good referral to, make that money back with interest very quickly. So
And
it's totally worth it.
yeah, and kind of like what we talked in the earlier segment on like having things on my calendar. This has been in my mind for a while, and so I'll say it on podcast, and then that means I have to do it. But if people will go to my website, ensemblebookkeeping.com, I will, as soon as this thing airs, we'll have a online worksheet or workbook. What do you call it? Calculator, something. It'll be something cool on the website where you can kind of figure out, is networking worthwhile, or what's your break even. So like, for instance, going off memory in my chapter, I want to say it's around $1,000 to join, and I think it's like $700 a year to renew, something like that. Plus, there's chapter dues, like the pays for the meeting room, the coffee, the stuff that we have. And so there's a dollar cost to that. A lot of businesses are like, hey, it's $1,000 to come join our group. That might scare a lot of people off. That may not be their marketing budget. But depending, and it's also time. So like our group meets for an hour and a half every week. Except for like we follow the school calendar some on like holidays, so we'll take off for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and spring break, things like that. But we're probably meeting 45 weeks a year. And so that's an hour and a half. Plus, there's an expectation. You said face to face is what y'all probably call one-to-one meetings. So where you're expected outside of the normal meeting to meet with another member. Each week. That might be virtual, it may be in person, have coffee, whatever. Go to their office. But like that's a lot of time. If you do all the things, there's continuing education that they want you to do. They want you to do. They say an hour, but it can also just be some podcasts and stuff like that. But like if you're really doing all the things that they ask, it's a chunk of time. It's an investment. But 10 clients, like you said, like it doesn't take long for those numbers to be a great payoff. So the way that I think this calculator will work, now that I've said it, I have to do it. You can plug in like what is your time worth? Do you value your time at $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $200 an hour? Like, what is it? And plug it all in, and you'll be able to see like, okay, what's it going to take? And like also like what's your average sale in your business? Is that like one time you sell things one time, so you got a commission, or is it a monthly sale or whatever? But yeah, to be able to see what's it going to take to break even, and then play around with it and see like, oh, okay, yeah, if I do this many clients, if I get one client a month, this will pay off X amount, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another way to get in front of people that can be potential clients, but also send potential clients towards you and actually represent yourself as an authority in your industry. Because when you're at those business networking events where you're just sort of expected to walk up and talk business with people for no given amount of time, it's just you got to pick yourself up by bootstraps and start talking. If you're doing it that way versus this way, in an in-person paid for business networking, and I'm sure there are other great business networking groups out there that do similar things to this for free too. I'm sure they're out there, but this has been my success. Has been in this one. Mine's called Master Networks, by the way. We started out in Plano, Texas, and it has gone worldwide since then. But the big thing that you have is every 2 weeks we have what are called showcases, and in a showcase, a business owner who has signed up for it, or two business owners, get to get up in front of everybody in the meeting for 10 to 15 minutes and just talk about really kind of whatever they want to talk about. It's their time. But what would make sense to talk about would probably be your business. And what you can do is get up there and show them what you do, show them why you're different than some of the other people. Maybe talk to them about your background, because remember, we're trying to do business with people that we know, like, and trust. We know that that is what sells business. So if I want the people in that chapter to know, like, and trust me, I'm gonna get up there and I'm not just gonna say, hey, I'm Wes, I'm a bookkeeper. I'm gonna say, hey, I'm Wes. I grew up in Garland, Texas, to two parents that owned and operated a wholesale grocery distribution business. And in doing so, I spent most of my days working with my mother in an accounting office, organizing invoices and taking money from truck drivers coming off of route. And that is some of the stuff that instilled a work ethic and love for bookkeeping at an early age, without even knowing that I was really doing bookkeeping. It's stories like that that are going to make people feel like, I like Wes's story. I like who he is as a person. I want to continue to see him be successful. I want to send clients to him because I like his energy. Like that's what you have the ability to do in these in-person business networking stuff.
Absolutely.
So,
go ahead.
Oh no, I was about to segue into kind of the challenges of in-person business networking like that. So I don't know, like what are common networking obstacles? And
like I know one for me is the networking chapter I'm in. We meet at 7:30 in the morning, and it's actually the next town over, so it's like a 45-minute drive for me each way. And so like that is a really early morning to get there. And it can be challenging. I'm lucky in that my wife's a school teacher. All the kids go to her school, so like getting kids to school is not a problem. That may be a problem in a couple of years when they move to a different school because it's right at school time. But finding that actually getting to the meeting. I've had other meetings that meet every other week at like lunch or something, and so those are easier. But the time of day could definitely be an issue. Doing all the follow up that's required.
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually working the process.
Because a lot of times, oh, it didn't work. And it's like you really start talking to people like, did you follow all the steps?
Yeah.
It's like a franchise. Like franchises, here's all the pieces. If you do all the things we tell you to do, you should have success. And
that's what we see all the time on our side as well. Whenever people leave a chapter, they'll say, well, I didn't get a return on investment. And we'll dig into that and we'll see in the system that they never had a face-to-face with someone. And that's where the magic happens. Like it's either going to be from you doing really good showcases, or it's going to be from you meeting people after the meetings, because otherwise you're just another head in the room. And people don't just want to send you money because you're part of that industry. They want to send, warm referrals to Wes because I like Wes as a person who I have gotten to know because I've sat down with him and I have talked to him and I know about his life. I know about the struggles that him and his wife have gone through. I like Wes. It's like that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. There's also those kind of one-to-one meetings where I can remember the first one where it like clicked, and I was meeting with a commercial banker, and he'd been in the group for a while, and he was like, oh, okay, and we did one-to-one, and he went through. He was like, okay, I've got this person and this person, this person, this person. I'm going to refer you to. Like it was stuff I had been in the group for 3 or 4 months, but until we had that one-to-one meeting, it didn't necessarily click to him. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm sharing for a minute, each week, and then even if I did a 10-minute presentation, but having that one-to-one time, and the same on my side, like, oh, I'm learning. Oh, you can do this. Oh, I didn't know. And then all of a sudden, as you're having that conversation, like, oh, Susie, I could refer Susie, and James can help, and this person and that person, and that's kind of where the magic happens in these groups. So is outside the group. Like you show up, you show your presence. I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm here to stay, and
So
yeah, but have those individual relationships.
So yeah, I agree with you. It sounds like the major obstacles that can happen from this type of business networking is everybody trying to get to the place at a certain time because everyone's got different work schedules, different industries meet at different times. It's harder for some people than others.
Yeah.
Something we didn't quite mention is, like at least in our business networking chapter, we're getting to do business networking at an establishment that's not charging us. But in order for that relationship to work well, we also want to support that establishment. In our case, this is a restaurant, so we want to stay after the meeting and support that restaurant and buy some meals from them. But in order to do that, we can't start our meeting at 7:30 because they won't start serving until 11. So we got to make this meeting closer to 9:30, which makes it hard for some industries to get there. So those are some of the problems you run into is timing. But
Well,
then the other thing is just people not working. The process of doing business networking this way.
Yeah, the other one I thought of as you said that was especially with trades. So if you're a landscaper, a lot of times, if you're unless you're a huge company and you've got marketers that
you have extra people
work, to actually come. But a common thing would be like a landscaper comes and he'll come for 2 or 3 months and then he gets all this business and he's like, I can't make the meetings anymore. This is daylight. I need to, 7:30 is when I start my day. Like if I start my day at 9, when all this is over, it's going to be I'm losing too much daylight. Like I've got to get out here. I have my crews. Like they've got to start or like the really small service business. Like that's the thing. But we've got a couple of really small service businesses that have just bit the bullet. And like no, on Thursday mornings we don't start, and they've probably seen millions of dollars over years because they made that that decision to do the marketing. To do the marketing.
And I agree with that thought. And it's not going to work out that way for everybody, unfortunately, because who you are as a person, your personality, your character, your ethics, those things are going to come through over time. And if it's not something that people agree with, well, then you can't expect to generate a lot of business that way. But I do think that if you are just genuine with people, that for the most part, you're going to see some success by working through these methodologies. And it's like what you said about like the landscaper. And we've had plenty of people that fit that bill that will come and they will leave the chapter pretty soon after because they're not seeing that ROI, that return on investment. But really the problem is they have not gotten into the process deep enough. And if they could just devote 1 hour to 2 hours per week outside of doing the landscaping stuff, I think that they would see that ROI increase dramatically. Because something else that, and we just talked about this forever because we've been doing this for a long time. But I mean, like another way that I know that people in the trades can make great strides forward in their business is by doing different sponsoring events. So for example, I've got a guy I know he's not in my chapter, but he's in another chapter of the same organization. He does pest control. And something that he is really big about is he goes to like as many of these meetings as possible. That's the other things. You can jump into any of these chapters whenever you want. As long as you're not stepping on someone else's toes that has the same industry, you can wait until after the meeting and talk to your heart's content with whoever you want. But anyways, that being said, these types of business organizations, we're constantly doing a lot of philanthropy. So, softball tournaments, fundraisers, just stuff that is raising money for people that are going through hardships in our chapters or in the community. And whenever things like that happen, we'll set up sponsorships. So the guy that I was talking about who does pest control, he'll put up a sponsorship and we'll have like a raffle for like a silent auction. And he'll basically say, I'm going to provide an entire year's worth of pest control services to whoever wins this raffle. And you get like 10 people that might seriously enter that raffle, but he'll get calls from like 30 people after that want to do business with him. So it's worth the sponsorship opportunities. You can get a whole lot from it.
Yeah. Just making the connections. And I mean, there's so much that comes from it. I was thinking about we have something within like BNI, there's probably something in yours called power spheres. And so there's like a real estate power sphere. And so for instance, there's somebody that sells, like single family homes. There's somebody that sells land. We have somebody that does mortgages. We have an appraiser. We have a surveyor. We have a home inspector. What else? We have pest control because we get the termite letter. We got insurance agent, personalized insurance agent to insure the home. And so like one person in there, like somebody's buying a home, that may hit 8 people. Is the person, hey, I'm moving to this area. Like you need all these things. Okay, here's your mortgage. Here's all the people. And like that's a lot of money that can be spread around. A closing attorney, for real estate. And so like it's amazing when these networks get put out. And it's not just that you share business, but like most groups are very selective. Like they're not going to take just the first person or the whoever kind of shows up. But like there's vetting. Like this is an important seat. And like if I'm in that industry, I don't want the deal to not get done because I have a bad appraiser or a bad home inspector or the mortgage person always drops the ball. Like that's not going to help. So being really good at your industry and being a part of a team like that, and it just makes everybody shine when you can pass on a referral to all these people. Like it's good to know people. So
yeah, for sure. Well, we wanted to wrap up this discussion. I think we're kind of getting to the end of this podcast.
I think that sounds good. I think we
so I guess in conclusion, some of the stuff that we talked about was working from home. We tried to give you guys some productivity tips and work-life balance stuff and common pitfalls. And then we segued over into business networking. And boy, do we have a lot to share about this. I'm sure that we'll continue to talk about this further in future episodes because it's definitely one of those things that I think has probably propelled both of our businesses and a lot of other entrepreneurial business owners that have started from scratch in a positive direction. I think it's something that we really want to get the message out there that it works. I think it's the right way to do it. But yeah, otherwise we talked about what it was in general, some of the good like goals and strategies you can implement when you're in it, and some of the challenges that exist in it as well. I don't think it's perfect, but I do think that it's definitely a way that can work for a lot of people. So if you guys are listening, do a Google search for BNI, which stands for Business Networking International, I believe. And then Master Networks. They're both great organizations. They're a little bit different from one another. So just do some research and see which one fits your personality best.
And see what's in your area. They're both nationwide international organizations, but they may not be having a chapter in your area. So.
Yeah. At one point in time, I helped start one in my area. So I'm at the point now where, lucky me, it's 10 minutes away from the house. So I'm loving it right now. I'll do anything to make this thing survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, do you want to shout out your business before we wrap up the podcast?
Yeah, sure. For those that don't know me, I am Wes from Breathe Easy Bookkeeping. This is our first podcast, so nobody really knows me yet. And at Breathe Easy Bookkeeping, I really do try to make your bookkeeping journey as easy as possible. At the end of the day, I am trying to help a specific niche of business, and that is mental health professionals. So that's going to be your psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, maybe other entrepreneurial business owners that are working in the same vein of trying to help people with their mental health. But that being said, I can still help just about anybody under the sun. But those clients are my bread and butter. Anyways, in my business, we try to do things a little bit differently than maybe some of the CPAs or accounting firms that you've heard of in the past. We try to give you some affordable pricing that's going to be a lot less than what you're going to pay a bookkeeper in-house. and we try to hand some systems to you that really make this whole thing very easy. Taking a picture of a receipt, for example, and being able to just trash that receipt after. Some CPAs will say, so don't do that, but I digress. We try to make the journey a lot more simple for you so that at the end of the month, we can go over some financial statements and you can know that your books are in good hands and you know the direction that your business is going.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll share. I am an owner. My name's Chip Mitchell. I'm the owner of Ensemble Bookkeeping. And so a lot of what Wes said applies to us too. Kind of the niches that we serve. Kind of follow. I've had a varied past in some of the different businesses that I've owned and worked in. So we support nonprofits. I've had many years in working for nonprofits. We support home care companies. I had a home care business for a long time. We serve fence companies. We've got several fence companies. I have no background in that, but we picked up a few and enjoy serving those. And so that's kind of the main areas. We do a little bit of investment real estate too. But we're happy with some people in multiple businesses. That's a good fit for us as well. So, but we'd love to talk. Either of us. I think we will have links somewhere. We can probably point and then put one somewhere, but it'll be somewhere on the screen or below, or we will you'll be able to find us. We're both very Googleable. So
All right.
awesome. Yeah, well, this is great. And until the next time.
All right, that's a wrap. See everybody later.